Okay, so as we draw to a close for lesson 3, we just need to finish off by looking at this and concluding the main points of this lesson. So here we are with planning the event product experience, and it's important to remember 3 elements, which are the core service and benefits that the customer will experience from the event, along with any supplementary features or augmented services that will differentiate this event from its competitors. So perhaps what will differentiate it from previous years or from future years or from other events that you go to as part of the forces, and there's different needs that there are for it. But also the third element is the delivery process, so the role of the customer in the experience and the length of the event and the style of the event as well. And so here's a slightly wonky diagram to help you to appreciate the process of creating the event product, and it starts off at the top, but it's a cycle really, where it's looking at the corporate objectives and resources, and it considers the market opportunities, the strategies, customer benefits, and they all feed in at the bottom to the event experience. But if you have a look on the right, it also takes into consideration the resources that are involved, which can include anything from the geographics to the different facilities, the scheduling, the actual sort of physical resources of it all, and so on. So this helps to just place all those thoughts into a diagram so that you can see how both the resources and the strategic elements feed into the overall event experience. When you come to actually programming the event, there's 4 key elements. You need a distinguishing core concept in the program, so basically one central purpose that the whole thing is built around. And then you need to marry your event program with its actual physical environment. So how do the two actually fit together? It's all very well having something that's incredibly elaborate and creative, but if it actually doesn't fit in with the physicalities of the resources available, then it's not going to actually work. You may well want to think about the role and operational approach of an artistic director or producer. That might be getting a little bit far-fetched for the MVQ dinner, but it's certainly worth thinking about if you were going to go with any larger event. And then you've got your established criteria for the actual content of the programme, which will have come up through the actual sort of brainstorming concepts in the last lesson. You do need to think about the people and partnerships, as well as the pricing, whether it's free entry or donations. Perhaps it's a charity or a fundraiser. And what about the place and its physical setting and processes? And so this diagram really just gives you some thoughts on the actual pricing decisions that are involved, and what you want to cover, so you can have a look at that. You'll also find it in your core text. It may not be figure 7.10 any longer. It may well have moved because this is taken from the previous edition, but you'll also be able to find this within the marketing chapter. You then need to think about any marketing communication that's going to go on in the event. So how are you going to market it pre? What are you going to market during the event, and any marketing afterwards, perhaps even any sort of follow-up or consideration. So you do need to bear that in mind, and whether that is relevant. There's often big MVQ or City and Guild stands as part of the MVQ dinner, and that would build into perhaps some of the marketing, but maybe you want to get rid of that and put something else up there instead. You also need to think about the message objectives and strategies as well. So you've got informational objectives, which create awareness of the event. You've got your transformational objectives, which are going to create these attitudes and feelings. Are people going to be excited about the event? Are they going to go, oh no, it's another MVQ dinner? Or, you know, how are you going to control that with the people that are being invited, and how are you going to think about that? And then you've got your behavioural objectives. How are you actually going to get those people there, and then how are you going to interact or get them to interact with the event through the relational objectives. So do think about those. What's the core message you're trying to get across, and how are you going to do that, and how are you going to get those people involved? I'm sure that people will look forward to the dinner, but how do you encourage them to look forward to that, and how do you give them an expectation of what they will get from being at the dinner? So your homework for this week, in addition to all that you have been doing on your wikis already, is to consider PEST and your competitors in regard to the assessment. Perhaps there are no competitors, but actually I would say that your competitors are the other groups of you that are doing planning for the event. So you've been sharing ideas, and that is good, and I want to encourage that. But equally there's a bit of competitive rivalry, I suspect. So do think about what your USP is for the event, i.e. your unique selling point. What is going to differentiate you from the other groups? And then that might become something you don't want to share then with the other groups, and that's fine. What I would suggest though is once you've done your presentations, we will find a way to make those available for you to share with each other, and you can see what each other were doing. But we will worry about that after the assignment. Don't forget to read through the chapters on marketing and HR again, chapters 10 and 11. And then in preparation for next week, please have a look at the chapters on project management and finance. You have done a lot on finance already, so this is all going to be very familiar. But please have a look at those and refresh your minds and think about some of the practical application of finance to this module in events. Okay, so in summary, you should be able to describe the HR challenges that are posed by an event, look at the key steps in the resource planning process, and determine the HR needs for events. You should be starting to think about how you're going to apply strategic marketing to different events, looking at the principles of marketing to create strategies, and starting to plan the event, service, product experience. And that is really what we have covered in today's class. So next week, as I've already mentioned, is all about project management and control and budgeting. So I will see you in week 4.